Welcome to History in Flames, where battles are remembered. Empires rise and fall, the past comes alive in fire and ash. Subscribe and relive the stories that shaped the world. April 1945. The world's deadliest war was in its final act. For nearly 6 years, Nazi Germany had dominated Europe with an iron grip. But now, the Reich was collapsing. From the West, the British, Americans, and their allies pushed across the Rhine. From the East, the Soviet Red Army advanced relentlessly. At the heart of it all lay Berlin, the capital of Hitler's empire. A city of once grand avenues and monuments, now a fortress of rubble. Inside, millions of civilians and soldiers prepared for the apocalypse. For them, there would be no escape. On April 16, 1945, the Red Army began its final offensive. Marshal Georgy Zhukov commanded the mightiest assault Europe had ever seen. 30,000 artillery pieces fired in unison. The earth shook. The sky turned red. Entire villages vanished in smoke as Soviet tanks rolled westward. For the defenders, an exhausted mix of Wehrmacht, SS, Hitler Youth, and old men of the Volkssturm, the onslaught was unstoppable. Berlin itself was already a wasteland. Air raids had reduced neighborhoods to ash. Families lived in basements. Bread was scarce. Water was rationed. Posters screamed, "Fight to the last bullet." But the people had no bullets left. Teenagers carried rifles larger than themselves. Mothers dug trenches with bare hands. The Reich promised them victory, but gave them only despair. Deep beneath the Reich Chancellery, Adolf Hitler retreated into his bunker. The once all-powerful dictator was now a broken man, frail, trembling, consumed by paranoia. Maps on the wall showed armies that no longer existed. He barked orders to generals who were already dead or captured. Yet in his mind, salvation was always just one counterattack away. Beside him, Eva Braun. Around him, Joseph Goebbels, his family, and a shrinking circle of loyalists. In that underground tomb, reality slipped further away with every passing hour. Above ground, the city became hell itself. Street by street, the Soviets advanced. Each intersection was a fortress. At each apartment block, a battleground. Civilians fled into cellars only to be buried alive as buildings collapsed. The Reichstag, once a proud symbol of German politics, was turned into a fortress of last resistance. Soviet flamethrowers cleared basements. Tanks blasted through walls. Grenades echoed down stairwells. For Berliners, the apocalypse was not coming. It had arrived. April 29th. In the dim bunker hall, Adolf Hitler married Eva Braun. It was a wedding without flowers, without music, without hope. Just hours later, he dictated his final testament blaming the Jews, his generals, and everyone but himself for Germany's collapse. On April 30th, around 3:30 p.m., Hitler ended his life. Eva Braun followed him with poison. Their bodies were carried into the garden above, doused in gasoline, and set aflame as Soviet shells thundered in the distance. Meanwhile, the Soviets stormed the Reichstag. Fighting raged inside the shattered Parliament Hall for hours. Machine guns rattled across stairwells. Smoke filled the corridors. Soldiers raised red banners again and again, only to be shot down. Finally, in the early hours of May 2nd, a Soviet flag was planted on the roof. For Stalin, this was more than victory. It was vengeance. For the world, it was the symbol of Nazi Germany's death. The cost was unimaginable. The Soviets lost more than 80,000 men in just weeks. Hundreds of thousands more were wounded. For Germany, the losses were even worse. Tens of thousands of soldiers were killed. Civilians died in numbers too great to count. Women were assaulted in staggering numbers. Children were left orphaned. Entire neighborhoods erased. Berlin was no longer a city. It was a graveyard. On May 8, 1945, Germany signed unconditional surrender. Across Europe, bells rang, flags waved, crowds filled the streets. The nightmare was over, but the scars would last for generations. Germany was divided. The world was divided. The Cold War had begun. The fall of Berlin was more than the collapse of a city. It was the collapse of an ideology built on hate, fear, and violence. From the ruins rose a new Europe, but also a divided world. East versus West, democracy versus communism. For those who survived, Berlin was not just history. It was trauma etched into their very souls. The red flag over the Reichstag marked the end of one war and the beginning of another. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Share your thoughts below.